the top 20. And people might have some gripes about this, but I had Jaylen a little low coming off the Finals MVP, East Finals.
Ew.
But I do have him over Ja, who has some serious questions still. Injury last year, efficiency too. He's, just what I mentioned with Zion. When he's there, the Pelicans have been borderline contenders. When Ja's been there, the Grizzlies are in that class. And when I talked to Noah Eagle last week, he was making sure to emphasize that the Grizzlies are going to be a real deal team with everybody back this year. But I'll be conservative about his ranking. Jimmy, actually, crazy enough, I'm a Jimmy guy. But when I put this list together the first time, he actually wasn't on the list at all. I totally forgot about him, and then I had to go and rework everything to put him back on there. I'm a little low on him coming into this year because I think it could be weird with the contract and all that. His age, he almost never plays in the regular season, but he's still maybe the best playoff guy in the league at this point. And of course, he wasn't out there last year in the playoffs, so that's why he takes a big drop here. So for Jaylen, phenomenal year. Brilliant in the playoffs, and the 2 MVP awards speak for themselves. I thought he took a nice step defensively this year too. Mid-range, one of the better mid-range guys in the league. And I love his ability to crack open elite post defense. I think that's what's most valuable for the Celtics. And he really found his role playing for the Celtics too. And if you want to rank him higher, I think the argument would be he's able to play alongside Tatum and thrive alongside Tatum, where Tatum's being the one at such a high level, and maybe a higher level than anyone else in this class of guys would be capable of. But there's still a lot of these other guys leading their teams as the one. There's still the free throw thing, 3-point shooting thing with him that I think have to improve into this year. And as great as he was defensively last year, I want to see him do it again. And I don't think it's a knock the guys who are in front of him. Booker, another great year last year. I don't think any of the problems in Phoenix are his, and he has, in my mind, to shoulder the load of running that team as the facilitator, as a guy who still has to score a ton of points. Brown may be a better defender than him, but Booker's taken some steps there. Kawhi, it's all about health, but if Kawhi's healthy and Kawhi, he's ahead of Jaylen. LeBron, I'm actually taking LeBron probably further down this list than most people would. Defense, availability. He was tremendous last year, though, and so great inside the arc and outside the arc, too, that I think it's actually going to be pretty tough for LeBron to repeat what he did last year. He was unreal efficiency-wise. So, yeah, he just had a better year than Jaylen. Tyrese, probably the one people are going to have the biggest problem with here. I'm way higher on Tyrese than maybe almost anyone. I think he's an engine, runs that team that's just this offense that's on par with anybody's. Right there with the Celtics, is the best in the league last year. And so much of it is just his passing, his shooting ability. He got hurt midway through last year, and the shooting kind of fell off the map after that. And defensively, he leaves a lot to be desired there too. So it's tough. Again, Jaylen's the 2 on the Celtics. Tyrese is doing everything for Indy. It's tough to compare those guys. Edwards, again, I'm a little lower on him probably than most people are going into this year. Still think he has some things to clean up. And he and Jaylen are actually pretty comparable players. Anthony Edwards isn't always the point of attack guy there in Minnesota. So I think he and Brown are actually probably in like the same area right now, more than most people would think, given the Edwards hype. Mitchell, I wanted to make a statement about Mitchell. He was the best player the Celtics, or the most dangerous player the Celtics saw in their run. When he's out there, he's just blowing up the rim, whether it's dunking, whether it's pulling up for a ton of threes. He's a good facilitator. Not a bad defender either. I love his game, and he just powers that Cavs offense that has a lot of weak points in it. So hard to guard. I think when he's healthy, and he wasn't super healthy last year, he's an all-NBA guy. And then Brunson, who, again, probably a little lower on than most here, but I think it's going to be tough for him to repeat what he did last year. It was an incredible season. I actually think there's some parallels to the Isaiah year that he had in Boston. Can he repeat it again? Probably has to take a step back scoring-wise to make it work with a bunch of other guys who are fitting into that lineup now. So if he can maintain top 10 status, and he was top 10 last year, I'd say super impressive at his stature, how far he's had to climb up this list through his career. I think 11's more than fair for him, and he was a top 5 MVP guy last year. So I don't know. Who would you put Jaylen over here if you had to move him up?
Everybody other than Jalen Brunson, I think, at this point.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what else do we want from him? Like he literally just led the Celtics to a championship. I mean, he was genuinely, he did everything. He did everything well. I feel like defensively, honestly, I'm starting to think that his performance was underrated defensively, what he was able to do throughout that run. And then offensively, I mean, I'd have to look at the efficiency numbers because I do think he takes a big hit with the free throws, but I mean, yeah, I think you have to put him above Kawhi, I don't think should be here because of the injuries. Or if we're talking injuries for Porzingis and everybody else gets a knock, like Kawhi can't be number 16. He hasn't, he's just you can't
How
count on
low
him
should he
being
drop?
available. 30s. I love
Wow.
Kawhi. I mean, I'm just looking at like I hate to knock guys for injuries, but it's like he's not available, right? He's consistently not available. It's not a one-off thing. It's a very specific thing that we know is going to continue being an issue in the future. I mean, he literally just wasn't able to play in the Olympics, right? So, yeah, Kawhi, I don't think you can have him above Jaylen Brown. I don't think you can have Devin Booker. Like, I want to see Devin Booker do what Jaylen Brown just did. Like it's at a certain point, like you have to go off of what they gave us. And Haliburton, I love Haliburton. I love him as a player. I think he's great. I think he's a beautiful passer. I also felt like when he got hurt in the playoffs, there wasn't a substantial drop off with that team. Like it almost felt like they didn't have a defender to exploit as much, the Celtics. And so he has to get knocked a little bit for that. But all those guys I would comfortably move down. Brunson is the one that I think has to, honestly, I don't know, I have to look at your top 10, but I think Brunson has to be a top 10 player. Just based off what we saw, I thought he was playing at an MVP caliber level for stretches, and I expect him to be an MVP candidate this year. That's my prediction. But yeah,
If he
Kawhi,
is,
Booker.
wow. He's
Yeah,
he's an
we've seen
all-timer
some
if
of
he can
these
keep that
guys.
up.
I feel like Halliburton's as a concept. Like you're saying Halliburton because I think what his ceiling might be, right? But we're not talking ceilings here. Like right now, Jaylen Brown has shown us more. He's accomplished more. I think that it has to go. You have to go off of that. So that's my case for Jaylen Brown. And obviously these are all very talented players. So it's no shame being in the top 20 players in the world, but I think Jaylen Brown has to be a little bit higher than that. Like you win Finals MVP, and the way that he did it too. He won Finals MVP when Jason Tatum was. I think the big knock on him is that he's plays alongside another superstar, right? That's the idea.
Hey, Bowie Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.